Have you ever looked at your day and realized it wasn't yours at all? You woke up with a sense of intention, perhaps even with a quiet hope that today would be different. And then, almost without noticing, the day was taken from you. Emails, messages, interruptions, pressure, expectations, one demand after another, until suddenly the sun is setting and you cannot clearly point to anything that mattered. You were active, you were busy, you were moving, but none of it was yours. This is the silent trap so many people fall into. They are not living by priorities, they are living by demands. Their schedule is shaped by urgency, not importance. And the painful truth is this: most people do not lead their lives lead them. Not because they lack intelligence or desire, but because they have never learned to anchor their days to what truly matters. Without that anchor, life fills the space with noise. The world will always provide you with something urgent. But urgency is not leadership. Urgency is not direction. Urgency is not meaning. Let me offer a simple principle that has guided countless individuals toward clarity and purpose. If you don't organize your life around what matters most, your life will organize itself around what matters least. And it happens quietly, gradually, almost invisibly, not in one moment, but in hundreds of unnoticed choices, checking a device before checking your values, reacting to others' expectations before honoring your own, giving your energy to what shouts the loudest instead of what genuinely deserves it. I once worked with a man who described his mornings as a battlefield. The moment he woke up, he reached for his phone. Within seconds, his mind was hijacked by notifications, requests from coworkers, issues from the office, reminders of obligations he had forgotten. Before he even stood up from his bed, his priorities had already been replaced by the priorities of others. By the time he left his house, he was already exhausted, already behind, already anxious. And he wondered why he felt disconnected from his purpose, why his goals never moved forward, why every day felt like a repeat of the last. His life wasn't failing, it simply wasn't his anymore. This experience is not uncommon. It is the reality for millions of people who wake each day with good intentions but lose the day within minutes because they are not grounded in principles. They are swept into motion without direction, into activity without intention. They confuse movement with progress and urgency with importance. And over time, this leads to a life that is full but not fulfilling. The purpose of this message is simple: to help you take back ownership of your time, your energy, and your direction. Not by working harder, but by organizing your life around what truly matters. When your priorities become clear, your decisions become easier. When your decisions align with your values, your days begin to reflect who you truly are. And when your days reflect your deepest principles, your life becomes coherent, meaningful, and deeply yours. In this video, I will give you the clarity and the tools to reclaim your life from the noise. You will learn how to lead your day rather than be led by it. And you will discover that the power to transform your life does not begin with grand gestures. It begins with a single choice: to organize your priorities before everything else organizes you. When you live without clear priorities, the consequences do not appear all at once. They accumulate quietly, almost invisibly, until one day you wake up in a life that feels rushed, scattered, and strangely empty. You may be surrounded by activity, but activity is not meaning. You may be busy every hour, but busyness is not progress. And this is the tragic irony many people experience: a life full of motion, but void of direction. When urgency becomes your master, significance becomes your sacrifice. You begin to spend your days responding to whatever demands attention instead of choosing what genuinely deserves it. Your time fills up with tasks that feel immediate but leave you unchanged. You handle dozens of small fires but never build anything lasting. You complete endless tasks, yet your most important goals remain untouched week after week. This is the quiet erosion of a life lived in reaction. And the damage extends beyond your schedule. It reaches into your relationships. When you allow the urgent to constantly overshadow the important, the people who matter most receive the least of you. You rush through conversations. You miss opportunities for connection. You postpone moments of presence because there's too much to do. Over time, urgency devours intimacy. The very relationships you believe you're working so hard to support begin to weaken because they are consistently pushed aside in the name of getting things done. Your mind suffers as well. Without priorities, your attention becomes fragmented. You move through the day with a sense of being perpetually behind, even if you're accomplishing a great deal. You feel as though you're chasing time rather than directing it. You jump from one demand to another, never feeling settled, never feeling anchored. This mental scattering creates stress, fatigue, and the overwhelming sensation that you're racing through a life you never actually get to experience. And perhaps the most painful consequence is this: your goals stop moving. Not because you lack ambition, but because you lack alignment. Your dreams are never defeated in one dramatic moment. They simply starve from neglect. They sit quietly in the background while the urgent consumes the space that belongs to the important. Weeks pass, months pass, and one day you realize that the things that mattered most to you have received almost none of your time. This is why I tell people, often with a gentle firmness, you are not busy, you are misaligned. Busyness is not the issue, misalignment is. When your actions do not reflect your priorities, no amount of activity will make you feel fulfilled. You cannot compensate for a lack of direction with more effort. Without alignment, effort becomes exhaustion. Part of the problem is cultural. We live in a world that glorifies urgency, a world that equates speed with success and overload with importance. People are praised for being always on, always available, always rushing. But this cultural conditioning is a trap. Urgency is seductive because it feels productive. It creates a false sense of accomplishment. But urgency, by its very nature, pulls you away from the deeper work of building a meaningful life. You must understand this principle clearly. When your priorities are unclear, everything becomes urgent. Every request feels important. Every message feels necessary. Every obligation feels immediate. Without priorities to guide you, your time is claimed by whatever arrives first, not by what matters most. You become a passenger in your own life, carried by external forces rather than guided by internal values. I want to offer you a soft warning, not to alarm you, but to awaken you. Without priorities, there is no direction. Without direction, there is no leadership. And without leadership, your life will not reflect who you truly are. It will reflect the noise, the demands, and the expectations of others. A life without priorities is not simply disorganized, it is unclaimed. But this can change. With clarity, with intention, with principle, you can reclaim your days and restore coherence to your life. And that begins with learning to lead from what matters most. There is a foundational principle of effectiveness that I have taught for decades, and it remains as true today as the first time I shared it. Life becomes coherent only when you put first things first. Not second things, not urgent things, not loud things, but first things, the things that matter most. And the challenge is that most people never truly define what their first things are. They live by pressures instead of principles, by demands instead of direction. But priority is not about effort, it is about order. To understand this principle at a deeper level, imagine your life divided into 4 kinds of moments. Important and not urgent moments are the ones that shape your long-term success and your deepest sense of meaning moments. Invested in growth, relationships, reflection, planning, health, and preparation. These are the moments that build your character. They strengthen your capacity. They shape your future. Yet these moments are often the first to be abandoned because they do not shout for your attention. Then there are urgent but not important moments, interruptions, pressures, and requests from others that feel immediate but contribute very little to your long-term values. These moments pull you away from yourself. They drain your time and scatter your energy. They keep you reactive. Without awareness, you can spend entire days here, busy but unfulfilled. Next, you have important and urgent situations, true crises, deadlines, or responsibilities that require immediate action. These cannot be ignored. But when your life lacks planning and proactive behavior, you create more of these crises through neglect. You begin to live in a constant state of catching up, always addressing emergencies that could have been prevented with foresight. Finally, there is the category that steals more time than people realize. Not important and not urgent distractions, mindless scrolling, trivial entertainment, tasks that fill time but add nothing to your life. These are the moments that feel relaxing in the short term but erode your purpose in the long term. They offer escape, not fulfillment. When you see your day through this lens, the path becomes clear. Your life is shaped not by how much you do, but by what you choose to do first. And this leads to an essential truth. Priorities are not a schedule problem, they are a character choice. Putting first things first begins long before you open your calendar. It begins with the kind of person you choose to be. It begins with values, with conscience, with integrity. This is where the 4 human endowments become deeply practical. Self-awareness allows you to step outside of the whirlwind of your day and see clearly where your time is going. It reveals the moments you are wasting, the interruptions you are allowing, and the reactive patterns that silently shape your life. Without self-awareness, your days disappear without ever producing the life you want. Conscience guides you toward what truly matters. It reminds you that your life is bigger than your tasks. It brings your values to the surface so they can shape your decisions. It prompts you to invest in people, in growth, in service, in the things that build both character and legacy. Imagination enables you to visualize the life you want to live, the life that exists beyond busyness and urgency. It allows you to see yourself prioritizing what matters, living with direction, showing up fully for the people you love, and building a future that reflects your deepest values. Imagination is the architect of a meaningful life. Independent will empowers you to act even when you don't feel like it. It turns intention into behavior. It breaks the habit of reacting and replaces it with the discipline of choosing. It is the power to say, this matters, so I will give it my time, even when urgency pressures you to do otherwise. When these 4 faculties work together, you begin to live differently. You begin to choose differently. And you begin to see your time not as something you manage, but as something you lead. Consider the parent who says, I want more time with my children, but finds every evening consumed by distractions and minor tasks. Without priorities, the important is always postponed. Or the professional who spends the entire day replying to emails, believing they are being productive, yet ends the week feeling no closer to meaningful progress. Or the individual longing to change their life, but constantly pulled into urgency, fear, or distraction, never making space for the habits that would transform everything. These are not failures of desire. They are failures of priority. The path forward is not to do more, but to put first things first, to begin with what matters most and allow everything else to arrange itself around that. That is the principle that changes lives. And it begins with a single decision: to lead your priorities before they lead you. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that the way they've been living is no longer sustainable. They are moving fast, but going nowhere. They are accomplishing tasks, but not fulfilling purpose. And in that moment of honest awareness, the truth emerges clearly. You don't manage time, you lead priorities. Time is fixed, time is neutral, time will flow whether you use it or waste it. What changes your life is not the number of hours you have, but the direction you give them. To lead your priorities, you must undergo 3 fundamental mental shifts, shifts that move you from a reactive life to a meaningful one. The first shift is from running to choosing. Most people spend their days running from task to task, message to message, obligation to obligation. Their pace is frantic, but their direction is unclear. Urgency has become their default. Pressure has become their identity. But leadership begins the moment you stop running long enough to choose. Choosing breaks the momentum of the urgent. It allows you to step out of the automatic and into the intentional. When you choose, you reclaim authorship of your life. You stop reacting to what arrives and begin directing what matters. The second shift is from the immediate to the meaningful. There is a profound difference between activity and progress. Too many people confuse the two. They fill their hours with movement, believing movement equals growth. But movement without meaning is noise. Movement without alignment is exhaustion. The moment you shift toward the meaningful, toward relationships, growth, purpose, health, contribution. You begin to feel something new, coherence. The pieces of your life begin to fit together. Your days stop feeling fragmented and start feeling integrated. This shift is the essence of Quadrant 2 living, the place where the important but not urgent becomes the foundation of your life. The third shift is from pleasing to being true. So much of urgency comes from trying to meet the expectations of others, wanting to be available, responsive, agreeable, compliant. But leadership demands integrity, not approval. It asks you to choose your mission over social pressure, your principles over convenience, your values over validation. When you live from integrity, you say no, not out of resistance, but out of clarity. You stop allowing other people's priorities to overshadow your own. And in doing so, your life becomes aligned with who you truly are, not who others want you to be. These three shifts transform the way your day unfolds, especially when the important, not urgent, becomes your starting point. When you begin with the essential, the urgent loses its power. Your energy stabilizes, your mind becomes focused. You stop feeling pulled and start feeling directed. You no longer drift, you design. Let me show you how this looks in real life. A priority-based day begins by saying a principled no to the things that violate your values or derail your direction. A reactive day says yes to everything and pays for it later with stress and regret. A proactive day invests just 10 minutes in planning, 10 minutes that create hours of clarity and prevent countless distractions. A reactive day jumps immediately into busyness, hoping something meaningful will emerge from the chaos. A priority-based day tackles the most important task before checking a single message. It protects your attention instead of scattering it. It gives your best self to what matters most, not what arrives first. And a priority-based day always makes room for people, time to listen, to connect, to nurture relationships, because relationships are rarely urgent, but always important. These small decisions reshape your emotional world. You feel grounded instead of rushed, present instead of scattered, intentional instead of overwhelmed. And as these decisions compound over time, your life begins to change in ways that are deep, noticeable, and lasting. I want you to hold this truth in your mind. Your life will expand or shrink depending on the size of your priorities. If your priorities are small, centered on tasks, interruptions, and distractions, your life will feel small. It will feel fragmented. It will feel reactive. But if your priorities are large, rooted in purpose, in values, in relationships, in contribution, your life will grow toward that greatness. It will expand to match the size of what matters most to you. This is the shift. This is the turning point. When you choose to live from the important, you reclaim your time, your direction, your integrity, and your life. If you want your life to reflect what matters most, you must build a system that supports it. Good intentions alone are not enough. Motivation fades, inspiration fades, even clarity fades. What remains, what sustains your priorities day after day is structure. A principled, values-based structure that guides your decisions long after your emotions have shifted. The purpose of this system is simple: to help you live a coherent life, a life where your time aligns with your deepest values. I call it the Covey priority system, and it rests on 5 essential practices. The first practice is identify your roles. Your roles are not tasks, they are identities. They represent the parts of your life where you carry responsibility, influence, and meaning. Roles like father, mother, spouse, leader, friend, professional, community member, learner, or caregiver. When you define your roles clearly, you prevent life from becoming a single overwhelming blur. You honor each part of who you are. You bring balance and intentionality to your days. Most people live reactively because they have never named their roles. They see only tasks, and tasks multiply endlessly. Roles bring order. Roles bring perspective. Roles remind you of who you are and what you are accountable for. The second practice is define weekly priorities for each role. Once you know your roles, ask yourself, what is one meaningful action I can take this week in each of these areas? Just one, not 5, not 10, One action that reflects your values and moves you closer to the life you want to live. A conversation you need to have. A moment of connection you want to create. A responsibility you must honor. A habit you want to build. These actions are the heartbeat of a priority-driven life because they ensure that every part of your identity receives attention and care. They turn vague desire into concrete action. The third practice is schedule the important before the urgent. Your calendar should reflect your principles, not your pressures. If something is important, time with a loved one, planning your week, exercising, reading, reflection, working on a key project, put it on your calendar before the week fills itself. Most people do the opposite. They fill their week with the urgent and then try to squeeze the important into the leftover spaces. But the leftover spaces rarely come. When you schedule the important first, you protect it, you honor it. You make a public declaration to yourself that values come before noise. The fourth practice is eliminate or reduce quadrant 3, the urgent but not important. These are interruptions, pressures, and requests that feel immediate but do not align with your priorities. They drain your time and distract your mind. And the more you say yes to them, the more your life becomes shaped by the agendas of others. Reducing this quadrant may mean delegating tasks that don't require your involvement, automating repetitive responsibilities, or learning to say no with clarity and kindness. When you reclaim this time, you create space for what truly matters. The fifth practice is the daily alignment ritual, a simple 3-minute routine each morning that centers your day on your values. Begin by recalling your personal mission, why you exist, what kind of person you are striving to become. Then review your key priorities for the week, the meaningful actions you defined for your roles. And finally, ask yourself, what matters most today? This single question has the power to refocus your mind, clarify your intention, and protect you from being swept into unnecessary urgency. Alignment is not an event, it is a daily practice. Alongside these 5 core practices, there are complementary routines that strengthen and reinforce your priority-driven life. Priority journaling allows you to record how well you lived your priorities each day, where you succeeded, where you drifted, and what you learned. It transforms reflection into growth. The evening review ritual, guided by 2 simple questions. What did I do today that aligned with my priorities? What will I improve tomorrow? Creates a cycle of continuous improvement. And weekly renewal, rooted in the principles of Quadrant 2, revitalizes your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Renewal is not an escape from responsibility, it is preparation for it. The result of living this system is profound. Your days begin to feel coherent instead of scattered. Your actions reflect your principles instead of your pressures. Your relationships deepen. Your sense of direction strengthens. You wake each morning not wondering how you will survive the day, but knowing how you will lead it. This is the power of aligning your life with priorities. It brings purpose to your decisions, calm to your mind, and integrity to your path. And it transforms the way you live, not occasionally, but consistently. I want you to remember something simple, but profoundly true. Organizing your priorities is organizing your life. When you choose what matters most and place it at the center of your day, everything else begins to fall into its proper place. Your stress decreases, your clarity increases, and your decisions become grounded in purpose rather than pressure. You stop drifting from urgency to urgency, and you begin living with direction, intention, and peace. When you commit to a life anchored in priorities, you become a different kind of person. You begin to experience the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are living in harmony with your values. Your relationships grow stronger because they are no longer squeezed into leftover moments. Your work becomes more effective because it is guided by focus instead of chaos. Your mind becomes calmer because it is no longer fragmented by constant reaction. You feel present, clear, and aligned. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to trust yourself because you consistently do what matters. Imagine yourself weeks or months from now. You wake up, not with anxiety, but with intention. You begin your day not by reacting to the demands of others, but by grounding yourself in what is essential. You look at your calendar and see a reflection of your principles rather than a collection of pressures. You move through the day with a steady rhythm, focused, deliberate, centered. There is a sense of coherence to your life, a sense of meaning in your actions, a sense of integrity in the way you show up for others and for yourself. This is what a priority-driven life feels like, and this transformation is within your reach. It does not require perfection. It requires one internal decision made consistently, to live from what matters most. Every day gives you that choice. Every morning gives you a fresh beginning. Every hour gives you a chance to return to the important. You do not need more time, you need more alignment. And alignment begins with deciding today what will lead your life. So let me speak to you directly with the same clarity I've shared with leaders, families, and individuals around the world. Today, choose what matters most. Today, choose your life before it chooses for you. Do not let urgency steal another day. Do not let distraction steal another moment. You have the power to direct your time, your energy, and your future by returning again and again to the essential things, your values, your relationships, your growth, your mission. Hold this final affirmation with you as you step into the days ahead, a reminder of your agency, your responsibility, and your freedom. When I lead my priorities, I lead my future. Say it with conviction. Say it until it becomes a part of your identity. Because your future will not be determined by chance or circumstance. It will be determined by the priorities you choose and protect each day. Our journey doesn't end here. If you want to go deeper, beyond priorities, beyond planning, into the very core of direction and identity, join me in the next message. We will explore how to discover and live your personal mission so that every priority, every decision, every day becomes an expression of who you truly are. Let's continue building your life from the inside out.